Welcome, traders. Happy Saturday, the 7th of March, as we get into our weekend update. I'm glad to have you. Thank you for following along. If you find this information beneficial, please like, subscribe, follow, and share it to people you think would benefit as well. Um, Obviously, last weekend was the kickoff with the conflict with Iran, and the primary driver behind the markets this week has been any news related to that conflict. Overall, indices down, metals up, and then back into range. We'll talk about that. Uh, the catalyst that the Strait of Hormuz has been closed has affected oil, and then will also affect the markets. Um, Other catalyst that came in this week is the Fed minutes showed a hawkish tilt. Matter of fact, that there's the chances of a rate cut this year is next to zero, and they're even talking about raising rates perhaps. And then that was solidified with non-farm payroll and employment rates and data that came out Friday, which was horrible, and the markets reacted. The indices reacted negatively to that, and metals reacted positively. So without further ado, let's get into the charts for you. All right, guys, we're going to start with the NASDAQ. If you're used to my weekend updates, the white line is since the last time we talked, the price action here. Again, really, you can see we were range bound within the week and then sold off hard on Friday, I I said we'll probably continue to do. The last time we had our meeting together here, guys, I said that the near-term target was this anchored VWAP kind of around 24,750. I really see it continuing to sell down to this support level at about 23,500. We will have some short stops at these wicks because price is your primary support resistance level. So 24,000, 24 or 23,800. And then we'll probably, with continued aggression and war, and as these negative catalysts roll in, we're going to head down to test these levels. We need to also identify where resistance is, and that's at the red line, the all-time high anchored VWAP, which for people that follow my trades, trade with me intraday, or even the groups that I call swing trades with, this 25,000 area short, commiserate with the all-time high is just paid multiple times. Matter of fact, that's how I paid for my vacation last year, or not last year, last week. So this is resistance, good short opportunity. It's currently at 25,200. Somewhere between 25,000 and 25,200 is the short area. I am currently short as the making of this video. I shorted Friday. Um, you can see that when we broke 25,000, I took a short and I'm currently in that short and I've locked in some money and I plan on writing that continuing down. And then if that were to flip and break, we'll go back into the range between 25,000 and the all-time high at 26,000. So that would be the next range that we would oscillate in. Right now we're seeing downside and this volume is supportive of further downside movement. So we're going to look at 23,400. SPX, same story. It broke down. As I predicted last week's meeting, that we would break down and continue down to probably test 6,500 this candle wick, which again I don't see anything stopping that, and then further down 64. So 6,500 to 6,400 is probably my near-term price target as long as this conflict continues to rage on. And understand, guys, if peace happens, that will immediately, if middle of the week peace happens, they will recover. All right, but this is going in through the next week, um, that it would potentially uh, continue to be worse, or even if a broadening war would push these down even further. To look at this from its all-time high down to this anchored VWAP is only an 8% retracement. Historically, with war or conflict, the average drop initial shock is 4% with about depth of 16 to 20%, and then they recover after 6 weeks. So this is certainly within reason here on what historically the markets have done in reaction to conflict. The Russell 2000 really showed significant drop here, especially Thursday into Friday. This range, 26,000, was annoyingly strong as support, and it finally broke. So now let's make that red. So remember, my green boxes are support, my red boxes are resistance, and we're going to head to this Anchored VWAP at about 24.87, commensurate with this support area here. And then if it continues to drop harder, because we do have some nice acceleration on the drop with volume, if this area doesn't hold, we could see about 23.50, 40 to 50. And that lines up with support at 2300. So that could be our next zone. Right now, guys, I think bears are in control. They're not liking the conflict. The markets are not liking the Strait of Hormuz being closed. So down we go. Bitcoin, uh, as of the our last meeting, we said the buy zone, and it's still the buy zone, 59,000 to 60,000. I did say on my lives, guys, you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube. I'm live every Monday through Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 15 minutes where I answer your questions. I go over a lot of these tickers. I go over my pre-market read of the markets, and then I answer your questions. I told everybody Wednesday when this spiked up that do not buy it. It's a bear trap, right? And then what did it do? It sold off. I warned buyers not to buy back into Bitcoin yet. Look at this. There's no supportive volume behind this move. See this move? No volume means that it will retrace. Sellers own this right now, and any bounce with low volume is not buyable. That is a bear trap or bull trap. So again, 59,000 to 60,000 is the next buy area with the trade plan running it back to about 100 or 99,000 to 100,000, which is also the all-time high. If this holds, stop loss commensurate to your risk. Oil, let's talk about it. I got oil futures up here. WTI is the underlier for this. This is last week, right before the week or the war conflict kicking off, and it spiked. I did say, I'm on the record saying that we're going to see a $10 spike immediately. And it did that, right? It opened, it ran, pulled back. And guys, really the number here, it's too late to chase it. I tried to buy multiple times at this level and hold my position. I kept getting kicked out. I would buy, it'd rise, it'd go break even, get kicked out, buy, rise, get kicked out, break even. So I kind of quit trying, waiting for Trump to start this conflict over weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. We knew it was coming, but I just stopped attempting the trade. And then obviously had I bought it the, $56, $57 range, this would be massive money, right? The only area of interest I have right now in oil is if you're long in oil, watch for 100 would be pretty strong resistance. But a long position in around this red line, which is the all-time high anchored VWAP with a stop loss commensurate to what's comfortable with you, and then run it up. But that's the next area of interest, 77 to 7 or 80, we're going to call it, because I've had people reach out and say, hey, where do I buy oil? That's the number. I mean, we may not see it for a while, but remember, as soon as the strait is opened and war stopped, it will smash back down. So be careful, protect your positions. All right, so some of the stocks, let's look at. Google has fallen out of the support zone. Some of these support zones are failing. Not that the individual stocks are bad, but the overall downward market pressure is bad due to the conflict. You got to remember that. Market pressure first, sector pressure second, and then individual stock catalyst third, right? So I still like this buy zone, although we are below it. I did put this gray zone in before for the next level of support between 280 and 290. If you like Google, I think Google is a big winner this year. You can start sizing in. If you sized in this area, hopefully you did it in small lots and you have a risk plan in place. And guys, if you get kicked out, take the stop loss, look for a new entry, honor your trade plan. OKLO, I talked about the IPO Anchored VWAP being the next area of interest, and then on Friday it tapped it. So if you like this as a buy because you like the nuclear thesis, it's at a buy zone where you can enter on this. Now, this is buying a level. If you want to buy the confirmation of the level, then you need a green candle with nice volume off of that to confirm that it held. So buying here would be aggressive. Buying after confirmation is conservative, but it's at that level. Stop loss commensurate to what you're comfortable with, and then you always target TP1 to that all-time high. I've said this for the last 3-4 weeks, guys. That doesn't change, but now we've hit the IPO anchored VWAP price, and we want to see what that looks like. Interesting note, we are running into earnings report here in about 10 days, and that could definitely impact the movement of the stock. M&P Materials, It's still range bound, nothing of interest here until we get into this box. I have an alert set at 50. This box 50 to 53 is interesting to me. All-time high anchor VWAP is 64. So buying in around this support, running it to the resistance. Really, it's not going to test at the all-time highs until we close above that red line there at 64.88. So no trade plan yet on this one. It's still range bound. BBAI has become interesting again, guys. I didn't like how they increased their float by $125 million. And as of our last meeting, it had bounced off my support area, pulled back. They had a great a positive earnings report, and the revenue was down, but earnings was up, and they had good forward guidance. So investors like that. So if you like this, I like it reclaiming above 475 into the $5 zone. I originally owned it at 550, and I got kicked out on a stop loss. I made money the first time, didn't make money the second time. I'm looking to buy it again, but this is a good look. And one thing you want to see in this is that volume here. Even though it's not a ton of volume, it is supportive of this move. So if you like this, the way that you adjust this risk is you buy in around this area with a stop loss just below that swing low, and then try to run it at least TP1 to the all-time high anchored VWAP, or foster it through that. So there you go. That's one trade plan built around that. Remember, none of this, guys, is financial advice. This is how I see the charts as a research analyst. You need to look at what I'm looking at and then decide for yourself on your own measurements. Pony is just looking awful right now, waiting for it to come down to my buy zone in the green box here between we'll call it 10 and 11, 10 and a half and $11. We do have an earnings report coming up, and that might be what it takes to get movement going, and that's not for another 2 weeks. So keep an eye on that zone. It's based off of the width of this wick here on the bottom, right, from November 21st of 25. QBTS, the whole quantum sector. Remember, guys, market pressure is crushing a lot of plays right now. And then you also have the AI sector applying a little bit of pressure because all of AI is down, which when it's down, that means it's into buy zones, right? You don't buy when it's running. You buy at discount price levels. It is running sideways here over the last couple of weeks that we've reported it. I do like this entry zone around, based around this price of $14. We have the IPO Anchored VWAP and then a number of VWAPs there, but that's interesting to me. Should it fall down there? We just had an earnings report. It was a double miss, spiked up a little bit, and then is just running sideways. So we need to close higher above this box. Resistance is actually a little lower now. We need to change this. This box follows that all-time high anchored VWAP. So any trade plan, that would be TP1, and then TP2 and 3 exist in higher price points. But I still like the lower buy zone. So keep an eye on that. Set alerts, guys. Remember, you can set alerts. I'll set one right here on price. As it enters the box, we'll call it at 1505. And then you can also set an alert on the VWAPs themselves. So you right click and say add alert on the anchored VWAP. So there's instruction for you on how you can do that on either one of those. IonQ, we called this trade plan a couple weeks ago. If you like the IPO buy, then it tapped you in and it's price risen, and it's a good time to start reducing risk because now you're $5-6 in the money on this trade. This buy zone still exists around 30 to 32. But if you bought around that IPO, start reducing risk and falling on the way up. TP1 is going to be that all-time high anchored VWAP, which is a little lower now at $51. TP2 and 3 are above that as we start to try to challenge all-time high. So IonQ looking decent off of our recent calls. Quantum computing is just dropping here. They did have an earnings report, mixed bag results. Really not interested in it. I am interested in this price point at 570 right here off of 582. So it set this low and then set a higher low. So really this creates my range, right? Like that. And that box should be green. So that would be the next area that it would search for support based on price. The IPO anchored VWAP and the all-time high anchored VWAP are overhead right now. So this is more fundamental buying than anything based on a technical level on price if you like the thesis. UUU, it broke down. Again, this is, again, structurally, this is a cup and handle, which has a higher percentage of running up, but it's being soured due to the conflict, guys. Again, good stocks get beat up because of overall market pressure. This isn't because this is a bad stock. However, if you bought in on this first all-time high anchored VWAP right here, then make sure you honor your stop loss wherever it is, and if it's comfortable to you. This trade plan just has it about $2.25 with remember TP1 would be the lip or brim of the bull, TP2 would be above that. If you're not in the trade, right, and it pulls down and then recrosses that anchor view up, that will still be the buy signal right here if that is there. All right. So if you're in drawdown on this trade, you can make sure you honor your trade plan. This is very important. Honor it, get out, and look to get in because you don't want to ride this to zero on a very negative catalyst within the markets. I still like the stock. I still like the thesis, but market pressures are pushing everything down right now. It also goes to the fact that every meeting that we're here, I talk about buying in lots or parts, right? You should not be fully allocated in this trade yet. Remember, I said that it needs to clear this second all-time high anchored VWAP to be a validated trade. So you could go partial and partial, right? So look at a couple gold miners before we get into metals and wrap this up today. Ego, it's tapping right into the buy zone here. I like $38. We can make this zone a little bit smaller. It's based on this wick right here, guys, is where I'm getting that buy zone. And then I like how this critical breakout anchored VWAP was within that zone. So really 36 to 39 with a centralized price there being 38.71. Keep an eye on that. The all-time high anchored VWAP at 42 will be resistance. But if you're positive metals, miners are going to benefit. And yes, I'm positive metals and miners. So that might be a decent buy for you. If you own it way down here low, you need to hide behind this level with your stop loss. You need to raise your stop loss. If you own it down there at 26, get up here and hide behind that in case it fails. Lock money in. You got to pay yourself for being correct. Always be taking profits and always be ready to take profits. HYMC is doing the exact same thing. It's running up and pulling back to this buy zone with the top price being about $37 and the bottom price being 30. It's kind of a wide range there on this. However, if you like the thesis, that's a nice discount buy. If you own it lower, same statement. Hide right behind those wicks. Lock some profit in, guys. Um, let's get into metals. So metals did exactly what we thought they would do immediately with the war. They jumped up and then they sold off. We do know that silver was manipulated again. Yes, again by CME. They raised margin requirements 30% on traders, crushing retailers, forcing them to close positions. So closing is selling. I'm just letting that sink in. It has not affected. There's a high demand for physical silver. This is being manipulated by paper, but we can only trade what we see if we're on this, and you're not buying the real metal. You can get your hands on real metal, guys. Buy it, buy it. Another news piece that I didn't talk about at the beginning, I posted a reel about it, is the fact that BlackRock, Blackstone refused to pay people who wanted some of their money back. Go check out my reels on Instagram. You'll see that. The one that says warning. You need to see that. That has never happened in history. That is a major sign of these idiots being over leveraged. And when things are over leveraged, things go pop. Things going pop is good for metals, but it's going to cause expansion in the market and some extreme volatility. So anyway, on gold, we ran up on Monday, pulled back on or Sunday into Monday, and then pulled back on Tuesday. The all-time high anchored VWAP held. We've oscillated above it. And then I said the non-farm payroll came in, and actually intraday it was bearish. I said, guys, we're not taking shorts. This is too good for metals, right? I said we're going to close the day. I was talking futures prices, but I said we're going to close the day in futures at 51.85. And this is when price was like 50.95. Well, um, I was off slightly. It closed at 50.58, but I knew there would be it did run to my price, but it pulled back a little bit at close. So what I said is we're going to get trapped in this 51 to 5200 range. Now, any negative catalyst coming out of this conflict, it should push us through this 5200 range, and I like that. I am currently long gold again. I did go long gold. Make sure my chart is correct. I did go long here at 50. I told everybody 5,005, and then I ran it up and I locked in $85. I was trying to get it to break through 5,200. I had a target at 5,300, and obviously that didn't pay me. So I took 80 points, left about 100 on the table. But my plan was breaking above 5,200, locking another 100 in. So having 180 points and then TPing at 5,300. I'm back in this trade again at 5,100. I've locked in 20 points to endure some volatility because I'm trying to swing it. If we break above 5,200, I'm going to set my stop loss at 51.85 and then again trying to run it to 5,300. So I like the buys at 5,100 now and definitely have an order sitting at 5,000. I still have an order sitting at 5,005 in case we hit that again, guys. Um, but until we see otherwise, we are range bound between 5,100 and 5,200. 5,100 breaks down, buy 5,000. 5,200 breaks and holds, then that's going to be your next buy support zone. Um, Silver, again, the only two numbers you need to know are the all-time high anchored VWAP at, approximately 85. And you can see we rose above that with the war, fell below it, and now we were not able to regain it. And below that, price points for support are 80. It's these wicks 77 and definitely 71. So 85 and 71. Keep an eye on it. It's just how it is. Go buy physical silver. This market is being manipulated a lot. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't trade it. It's the expansion and volatility is just too much. You can set a skunk order at 71. I wouldn't necessarily short the all-time high anchored VWAP right now. I just don't. It is resistance, but it's ugly. You can see the trade plans I built over the last couple of weeks are still there, guys. Platinum. Now, listen, there's a lot of news coming out about platinum miners. Um, and there's going to be a structural breakout in platinum due to the infrastructure and power disruptions in South African mines, which produce 70% of the global supply. So they're predicting that platinum could surge to $3,000 an ounce, leading it, and some are calling it the 2026 breakout. Well, if that occurs, that's the fundamental information. If that occurs, guys, I will tell you the buy zone is still the buy zone at around 2,000. All right. Currently, it's 2,100 to size in, but I like 2,000 here if we pull back. The all-time high anchored VWAP is 2230, which will offer resistance before, and then above that, 2433, and then upwards of the all-time high before we see 3,000, right? So watch your 2,100 and 2,000 zones. That 2,000 zone is like the 5,000 zone in gold. It's very strong. Palladium is at its buy zone. This buy zone has been paying since we broke through it back in December multiple times. You can see the bounces off it are getting a little weaker, so you've got to be careful when you tap into zones multiple times. It could weaken. That's why you use a stop loss. If you buy in around this zone, we'll call it buying in around 1,600. Have a stop loss below this wick. You might be 40, 50 wide if you're targeting the all-time high anchored VWAP at 1750 or beyond, which gives you a nice risk reward ratio. I mean, 1 to 16 is ridiculous, right? Even the all-time high is a 1 to 5, which is very smart. So, buying in this box, you need to get below this wick as your stop loss and try to target that all-time high or foster it and trail it even higher for palladium. Remember, palladium is the only metal that has not set an all-time high, and that all-time high is right up here at 3,400. So when it breaks out, it's going to break out. It's just a matter of can we stay in the trade. Finally, copper. Copper has just kind of turned a little bit on this range, and you can see this range right here. Ignore the color. It's just been stuck in, right? Key prices for me overhead are 605. I've talked about this a number of times being resistance. Of course, below that, the all-time high is 587. But this buy zone right here, as low as 550 to 565. Remember, the thesis is that this is going to go to 10, 11, $12, right? But a buy zone in here, you need to have a stop loss that's comfortable to you. TP1 is always going to be the all-time high. TP2, 605. TP3, it's all-time high at 650. And then if you can run it higher, right? Copper's just been just really tough here, really range bound. So we'll see. Perhaps there's better trades available than copper other than waiting for that discount. Set some alerts. Let's get my camera to focus on me here. There we go. A little trick. Well, guys, if you find this information valuable, please share, and subscribe. And I'll be back next week. If you have any questions or comments, throw them down there. If you want any tickers that I didn't talk about, if I get enough people, I will add them to the report. Thanks for taking the time to be with me as your favorite analyst, Student Alpha. And we'll see you guys in the war room, in the groups, and then, of course, next week here on my weekend update.